Hi, I'm having a conversation today with Richard Bliss, and he's the CEO of Bliss Corp. So, Richard, tell us a bit about yourself and about your company.
Sure. The company's here based in Silicon Valley. I'm the CEO president. Bliss Point was founded with the idea of helping companies, particularly technology companies, understand how to take advantage of today's online presence. Whether you're a CEO looking to make a transition or to lead your company from the front, whether you're a senior leader looking to more effectively lead a team that is in a hybrid work environment, or maybe you're a salesperson looking to reach out and engage with prospects and customers. In today's world, my company, Bliss Point, is able to step in, help those individuals understand how to take advantage of these digital tools, particularly LinkedIn, how to establish a presence, build relationships, and extend our voice beyond what would normally have been just our physical presence. And in today's world, this is such a critical aspect of that.
Right. So, Richard, in addition to running your company, I understand you've also been writing a book. So tell us a bit about your book.
I have a book that came out. It's called Digital First Leadership. The idea behind the book is that in today's world, things have radically changed, where before we would meet in person. And then maybe I'd look you up. I'd go do some research, kind of investigate. But that has all been flipped on its head. In today's world, we meet each other virtually, and sometimes not even in what do we want to say, asynchronously, meaning I'm going to go look you up. I'm going to find out about you long before we come into contact or ever talk. This digital first approach means that leaders have to think differently about how they lead. I've talked to a lot of executives who are like, well, I don't connect with anybody on LinkedIn unless I've met them. Well, that's a pretty limiting factor in today's world, that you have a remote workforce that you've probably never met. You have customers and prospects who are reaching out to you on a global scale. And so the book, Digital First Leadership, was crafted in such a way that leaders today can understand the mindset they need to do to change, to think differently, and to take those steps to begin to put themselves out there. A lot of leaders today just haven't ever developed those skills because they didn't have to.
Right.
And yet now they're being forced into the hybrid work environment or other situations that require them having this new set of skills.
So, Richard, I've been using LinkedIn for a long, long time, and I'm aware, especially from my conversations with you and reading your book, that what I thought LinkedIn did when I first started is no longer really what LinkedIn's all about. So I think it's really important for CEOs to be up to date in their understanding of what LinkedIn does. So what's typically what you hear from CEOs that they get wrong about LinkedIn?
Well, you and I are not alone. Is that it's been more than 15 years. We're approaching 20 years of LinkedIn, which is a long time. Hard to believe in today's world that it's been around nearly that long. And when it started off, we knew what it was for. It was an electronic Rolodex, or it was somewhere to put our CV, cover letter, and resume. I got to tell you, the other day, you and I were in the room when I mentioned the word Rolodex. And we had a group of young interns in the back of the room that I could see in their eyes. They had no idea what we were talking about. What is that? Google it. But one of the things that we now deal with is that this is so far beyond a job site. It has become, this is one way of looking at it. LinkedIn is the closest thing we have in the digital world to the real world when it comes to our identity, particularly on the professional side. It's really hard to lie on LinkedIn. I can lie on my resume because I can send it to you and you're the only one that's going to look at it. Yeah. It's really hard to lie on my LinkedIn because everybody's looking at it. Now, if I claim to be the VP of Microsoft, somebody's going to call me out on that real quick. So LinkedIn has become such a critical, trusted site for our digital identity that it has radically changed, where it's where we're forming the primary way we're forming our business relationships today are on LinkedIn, even more than in person.
So, but LinkedIn is just another social media site, really, isn't it? How is it different from all the other social media sites?
It's the money. Right? Willie Sutton said, they asked him, why did you rob banks? Because that's where the money is. Why am I on LinkedIn? Because that's where the money is. And what I mean by that is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, they drive their revenue one way, advertising. We all know that. We're the product. You put out a piece of content on one of those social media platforms, They're going to try to show it to as many people, drive those advertising dollars. Only 20% of LinkedIn's revenue comes from advertising. 80% comes from subscriptions, which is surprising to a lot of people. Subscribing to what? Some of my clients spend over $1 million a year subscribing to LinkedIn tools like LinkedIn Recruiter, the recruiting HR trying to find candidates, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which gives you deep insights into the business aspect sides of the data that's inside LinkedIn, and LinkedIn Premium, a way for individual users to use an enhanced set of tools. This drives more than $12 billion of revenue, these subscription models. For those of us who aren't paying, if somebody's not paying one of these tools, they're still benefiting, just like when your kids move out of the house and they keep your Netflix account, right? They're not paying, but they're still getting it. LinkedIn's model is designed to build a platform that brings value to those paying customers so that they have an experience that makes them want to keep paying.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not there to entertain you. They're not there to distract you. They're not there to subject you to cat videos or cats riding Roombas. They're there to make sure that your experience is allowing you to connect and engage with other professionals to drive business value, whether that's business value through partnerships, selling, buying, whatever it might be. And that's a radically different environment and business model than all of the other social media platforms.
Right. So it sounds like probably pretty important for the marketing department to be on LinkedIn. And so, but from your point of view for a CEO, besides asking the VP of marketing, hey, what are we doing on LinkedIn? What do you think a CEO needs to know and needs to be thinking about with respect to LinkedIn?
You make a really interesting observation here, and that is the marketing department, and I was the vice president of marketing for many years, the marketing department tends to look at LinkedIn like a bullhorn, like they do with all the social media marketing. Now, there are different ways you can use social media, but mostly it's, hey, we've got a message, we're going to put it out there and push it to everybody we can. LinkedIn has in place algorithms that prevent you from doing it. They prevent you from just using them as a dumping ground for your marketing content. So the marketing team, it's critical for them to realize they need to think different. They need to have a completely different strategy for going to market on LinkedIn. They don't. I'll tell you right now, they don't. This is one reason I'm in business. Because they're doing whatever they did on Instagram or whatever they did on Facebook, and it's falling flat on its face on LinkedIn. Their goal is to build brand awareness, the marketing team. Your sales team, on the other hand, they're on LinkedIn for a very different reason. They want to close business. They want that LinkedIn experience to help them open the door to a singular account that is willing to and ready to buy from them. That's a very different experience than marketing. And then the third leg of this stool is the CEO. The CEO's goal on LinkedIn isn't to open a door of sales. Maybe it can help, but that's not their primary goal. And it's not to build brand awareness. Oftentimes, the CEO's role is to set the vision. There's a guy out there, Scott Galloway, great author. He talks a lot. He's
Podcaster, yeah.
Yep, podcaster. He recently said something that the next skill that CEOs need is a storyteller. Because the story has become more important than the data. The numbers themselves aren't as important as the story the CEO says of where the company is headed, where the industry is headed. So this cliche of thought leadership is what people are looking for from the CEO. So you've got these three entities that are using the platform, but have three distinct different outcomes that they're looking for. And that sets up conflict. Because the marketing team puts out content, the sales team's like, I can't use that. The CEO's like, I'm not just going to, I'm just going to click the repost button and put it out there. And then the salesperson's like, yeah, but the CEO, if you were to say this for us, you've got this push, hold, and my company sits right in the middle of that triangle. And we help the marketing team understand how to craft their content so that it can be used by the salespeople. We help the salespeople understand how the algorithm is working so that they can use the tool to not spam everybody, but to build a genuine relationship. And we teach the CEO how the platform can be used to reach an audience in the thousands, if not tens of thousands. And you don't have to be Elon Musk or Larry Ellison or whoever that you're thinking about. Instead, you can have your own voice to your customers and thousands will be listening in. But it takes a completely different shift mindset and then to take advantage of LinkedIn.
All right. Right. But when you came and talked to my group, I know that, I can hear jaws dropping and ideas being wrenched around 180 degrees all over the room. Can you give us an example of the kind of thing that some of your clients have done differently once they figured this out?
Yeah, and I've been in rooms where there have been audible gasps when I'm presenting my content. Audible gasps, because they all of a sudden they walk out saying, man, we were doing everything wrong. Well, I hate to use that term, but you were doing everything and being penalized for what you were doing. So yeah, there's some things some of my clients will discover, like, everybody's doing it. Everybody's watching it. Everybody's doing this. The company puts out a piece of content on LinkedIn. And what is the first thing they ask the employees to do?
Like the content.
Like the content and share it.
Yeah.
Right? Well, that works on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, but LinkedIn looks at that and says, that's not valuable to our paying customers for you to simply put a piece of content and then replicate it across our platform. Now, if you do that, the company puts out a piece of content and you hit the repost button to share it, we're only going to share it with 1% of your audience. We're going to hide it from 99% of the people you're trying to get it in front of. And I've had people tell me, well, why? Why would they not let me talk to my own people? Because they're not your people, they're their people. And those are paying customers who want to make sure they're not having a spam experience. So changing the way you approach your content, turning it into conversations that involve back and forth. And so what you want to do, oh, by the way, a company post only goes to 2% of the people following the company page. So your company's got 10,000 followers. Well, guess what? 200 people are going to see the content on average.
Right.
But your CEO, who maybe let's say he's got 1,000 followers, maybe he's got 2,000, 10% of his audience is going to see the content by default. So he's going to have a couple of hundred people, more than the company.
Right.
One of the changes we recommend is have the CEO or a senior leader post the content themselves in such a way that it starts a dialogue, a conversation. LinkedIn will see that, the algorithm, expand that out on its own. You don't have to do anything, and it'll push it out to thousands of people. And then you have the company reshare the CEO's post to the company page instead of the other way around.
Right.
And this dramatically changes the reach. We're talking a 20 to 30-fold increase in the number of people who see your content now. Well, this becomes a radical way. I've had one client, a very prominent business family out of Salt Lake City that were in philanthropy, and they were trying to change and shift their focus out of one industry into another. And they were struggling with it. And when I sat down and met with their senior leadership, the light bulb went off. That, if we started this conversation amongst our leaders, instead of thinking that they're going to push it out through the company's brand.
Right.
And I followed up with them about 90 days later. And they said, it's transformed. The number of people coming to our website, the number of people showing up to our events and webinars, it transformed the way they were able to reach their audience. It's simple things like that that can have a dramatic impact on the reach of the company and the executives.
Wow. Yeah. So I guess one of the things in talking to CEOs that they seem to miss out on in this change from the electronic resume to being this much broader messaging platform is the role of the company page. Many of them don't even know there is such a thing. So what is that? Tell us more about that company page and how that relates to what you're talking about.
Yeah, so a lot of people might not be aware that on LinkedIn you can have a company page. And now for most businesses, big businesses, they're going to have that. And the social media team's going to manage that. And the social media team's going to put out content on a regular basis. And then that team is going to tell all the employees to share it. And this is where I step in and say, you do realize you're only reaching 1% to 2% of your audience by doing that. If you want to reach more people on your company page, there's an easy formula to fix it. Pay them money. You're a business, you're on their platform, you want to reach an audience, pay them money. LinkedIn's a business.
This is the advertising side.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just boost, pay that. We're not going to allow you to use our platform to dump your marketing content for free while you think they're your followers. Again, LinkedIn's like, no, these are our paying customers. We're not going to let you spam them with your marketing content. Instead, that company page becomes an important conduit. Think about it like breadcrumbs.
Mm-hmm.
Your executives, they follow my plan, are out there talking and engaging. They're interested. People are listening and hearing and seeing their conversations.
Mm-hmm.
What company does this individual represent? It might be a VP, it might be a director. You go and click on their company logo, and it takes you to the company's LinkedIn page. There you see content, and there's a big old link that says, go to our website. So you have now given it's a two-step process, but you're capturing the audience within the natural flow, and LinkedIn's helping you do that. If you don't provide that step, what happens is the company thinks, I got to drive traffic. I have a client, called me up this week. Can you help us fix our company's strategy? Because my marketing team is pumping out all of this expensive, heavy content,
right,
videos and graphics and infographics. And he said, I went and looked at our numbers, and we're only getting 50 to 100 people seeing it. Now, they've got thousands of followers,
right,
in the security space. He said, I feel like we're just like wasting our time. I'm like, yeah, you kind of are. What do you do? Well, one of the things is, this is really hard for marketing teams to understand, change the content to text only. Why? Because it's easy to have a conversation when I read about it, but I am not going to have a conversation with your latest video that you put out. I am not going to have a conversation with your infographic you put out. I am going to have a conversation if you wrote something that I found compelling that I want to contribute to.
Right.
And then ask your employees not to reshare it, but to enter into the conversation. Let's shift over just to HR, hiring, because that's a big challenge for a lot of CEOs.
Right. I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. On the HR side, how often do you see someone say, we have a job opening, here are the requirements, please share this and let everybody know, right? Well, I don't know. Do you know any companies right now that are hiring? Look at it. Yeah, right? Everybody is.
Everybody's there.
So how do you stand out? So I had about 40 HR professionals in a training. And I said, let's do this. And they were all from the same company. It's a very large multinational company here in Silicon Valley. You got a job opening? I said, yeah, here's one of our job openings. Let's do this. And so I had actually somebody on the team, who wasn't even a CEO. I helped them write a post right then in front of 40 people. And it said something like this: you're the perfect candidate we've been looking for. Your skill sets match our requirements so perfectly that we're so excited that we're going to see your resume come across our desk. Here are the skills that we know you have that we're looking for. Boom, 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 boom. We can't wait to see you apply for the position. Now, that's a LinkedIn post. That's not an email going out. Right. Then I had everybody on the call comment on it. Add to the culture, add to the skill set, if you're the hiring manager, make a comment about coming to work for my team. They had 6 candidates apply to that position before the 90 minutes of training were up.
Wow.
Amazing. And they had been up for weeks.
Right.
And they were struggling to find somebody, and 6 candidates found it. It's the power of starting conversations on LinkedIn, whether you're looking for a job, starting to build a relationship with partnerships, prospecting for a customer, or building thought leadership. LinkedIn rewards one kind of behavior more than any other, and that is starting a conversation through comments. Can I start a conversation? Can I put a piece of content out there that will get my audience talking about it? Mm-hmm. Or can I go participate in someone else's conversation and add value?
All right. So I've heard people respond to the things you talk about as characterizing it as like SEO for LinkedIn. How do you think? Is that a fair characterization?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no because we have been so conditioned by SEO, and SEO is to build up our website so that the algorithms recognize it, find it, and then put it in front of the people who are looking for us. That gives you the idea that people kind of do that on LinkedIn, and you really can't. While searching does happen on LinkedIn, if I'm looking for a software developer, or if I'm actually, let me change that. If I'm looking for a project to be solved, I'm probably not going to look on LinkedIn for it. I'm probably going to Google it. All right, I'm looking for this. I'll be directed to LinkedIn. So LinkedIn as a search tool has benefits, but you got to be careful with the SEO side. Instead, LinkedIn's going to reward the other way around. And that is, and I just mentioned it here, just a comment. If you're looking for awareness for your skill set or your job, for your company, for your value, don't try to build content and then try to have the audience come find it. That's not the way it works anymore. Instead, the audience is engaging out there. Go get in front of them. LinkedIn's going to allow you. You've got a prospect. All right. Did they post anything on LinkedIn recently? They did. Did you leave a comment? They don't know who you are. But if you go and add value to them, I mean, who posts things on LinkedIn hoping nobody sees it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We put it out there so people engage with it. But what's the type of engagement that we see? Congrats. Well done.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. That's not a conversation, and LinkedIn finds that no guy.
Yeah.
But if you're a prospect, if you have a prospect and they don't know who you are, go comment on their post. And don't just say a congrats, say, hey, this was an interesting article you shared. As I read it, I took away this piece, and I can see how that applies to my business. I'm interested. What part of this article did you find most useful? Particularly because I work in the commercial space in real estate, and one of the things we do is this. How do you see that benefiting us?
Yeah.
Well, you now suddenly are in a conversation with the very person who doesn't know that you're on your call.
Yeah, they're at the top of their funnel.
Right? You can tell, and all of a sudden, they're having a conversation with you.
Yeah.
Now, when you send out that connection request, they're kind of
different. Yeah.
So,
so I can tell you, I've heard this before.
Yes.
And I've done it. I've tried it with people that I wanted to make connections with, and it really works.
It works. It's kind of magic.
Yeah.
It kind of feels stalking.
Yeah, but it's still, it's just great to get that connection.
Because we do it naturally.
Yeah.
If we were at a networking event and I wanted to meet you, I would either find a way to be introduced by somebody or come and stand in the circle you're in and then ask a question. And then at the end of the day, hey, can I give you a business card? I'd like to follow up.
All right. Well, this has been great. Let's just to wrap up, for the CEOs who have stayed with us to watch this video and who have been perhaps, stimulated to think, hey, maybe I need to rethink my approach to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
What do you recommend? What steps should they be taking?
Step number 1, take a look at your LinkedIn profile and see if it's a job resume or it's actually speaking to the very audience you want to influence. So often it says 25 plus years in the industry. Okay, the fact that you started your career in the late 1900s is not impressive to anybody. Okay? And you know what I'm talking about because you remember when I did it. It's like, oh, man, that's me. Okay.
All right.
Number 1.
I know what a Rolodex is, though.
Yeah, you know what a Rolodex is. Don't tell that younger generation. Number 1 is make sure your profile. I have had CEOs of multi-billion-dollar companies have a LinkedIn profile that shows them the wrong job, sometimes the wrong company, with 120 connections. It's like,
right.
Okay.
And it sounds like a pitch to a recruiter.
It does. I had a client this week call me up and say, I want to talk to you. Here's why. I just lost a multi-million-dollar deal. I said, how do you know? They reached out. They wanted to do business with my company. Then the appointment disappeared off my calendar. When I called up and asked why to my contact, they said they went and looked at your LinkedIn profile and realized that it didn't appear you were serious about meeting business, so they canceled the deal. He called me. The barn door's already open. The horses are already left. But he's like, I need to fix my LinkedIn profile. And so, number 1, get it in order. Number 2, approach your team to help you start to craft a narrative in your voice, not just shilling the company content. Nobody cares about that. I mean, they do, but they want to hear from you. Your employees want to hear from you, your partners, your customers, your vendors, and your prospects. Your voice needs to be there. Find a way to participate. That's number 2. If you don't have a team that can do that for you, call me. And then my team will be able to help you do that. And oftentimes, we only work with an executive for maybe 90 days. The reason is because after 90 days, these leaders are pretty smart. And so the man or woman that we're working with figures it out. All right, I got it.
Yeah.
Or they come to us and say, okay, I've got it, but I want you as my Can I call you?
Right.
And then we enter into a very low-level, long-term support
Sure. Yeah.
contract. And
Because I guess this is an evolve, like every other technology is continuing to evolve, right? New stuff is happening all the time.
it does. And so I'm in a position I have a way I send out text messages every week to a group of hundreds of people who follow me on through texting. And I'm like, look, here's the latest tip that you'll probably share.
You're eating your own dog food, right?
I eat my own dog's food. And so, one, get that profile in place. Number two, build up their voice either through having their team help them do that. Find an authentic way of being present. Call my team and we can help you out. And like I said, is that it's not hard. It does take some time, but not nearly as much time as an executive thinks. And what it is you find that cadence that becomes easy for them over time as they learn it to become more comfortable with it.
Right.
I have CEOs who have worked with me for over a decade, and I have other CEOs who come in, and in 3 weeks, they're like, you know what? I think I've got it. Or I train their team, we've got it.
Right.
But I still get those phone calls every once in a while.
But I guess it's also a continuing, you yourself are having to keep track of how LinkedIn is evolving, I imagine, because these things are like algorithms and so on are constantly moving, right?
I think we are 3/4 of the way into 2023. At the time of this recording, there have been over, I think, 150 to 200 changes to LinkedIn this year alone.
Right.
And so, yeah, keeping those up. But here's what's interesting is that most of those changes have a little impact on a CEO. Here's why. LinkedIn has one goal: to start a conversation amongst business professionals. And all of these tweaks and changes and everything are driving towards that goal. So if they get their profile in shape, learn to have an authentic voice that gets out from behind marketing, the tools itself will become a natural extension of their daily and weekly habit. They don't have to put in a lot of time, but they do have to show that they're present so that the next time a prospect looks them up, they don't wonder why this person's leaving the company when they can't even figure out how to put their picture up on LinkedIn.
Right. Okay. Thanks so much. That's really fantastic. Any last words to finish the
Here's
discussion?
the last word. This is what I tell almost every executive I talk to. Your inability to master a 21st century communication tool calls into question your ability to lead a 21st century organization. It might not be true, but it calls that into question. Make sure you have grasp of the tools that the world today is using to communicate.
Wow. That's compelling. Thank you, Richard.
Oh, my pleasure. Happy to be here.